Tom Barrack, the man directing the Middle East now, and who is living the consequences of his decisions? Kurdish families. Because when you place the fate of 6 million Kurds into the hands of a man with zero political experience, you are not making an appointment. You're making a gamble with human lives. He is not some distant official with a long CV of public service. He is a longtime friend of President Donald Trump. They met in 1986 in person during the Plaza Hotel negotiations. Since then, Barrack has been Trump's best mate and part of Trump's financial orbit. The LA Times listed him as a top California Trump donor in 2019 to 2020. Across 3 election cycles, he poured over $1.6 million into Republican fundraising, with nearly $900,000 going straight into Trump's main victory committee. And he chaired Trump's inauguration, which brought in a record of $107 million. So when President Donald Trump got re-elected, he probably felt in debt. And in US politics, yes, it is understandable you reward the people who carried you. But what is not understandable is this. Taking a man with zero political experience, a man who has only sold hotels and bought land, a guy who lives on contracts and handshakes, and making him US ambassador to Turkey in May 2025, and then after a few days it is like the ambassador title wasn't enough, like it wasn't equal to the hundreds of millions raised around Donald Trump, he made Barrack the special envoy to Syria, with as much diplomacy as Jennifer Lopez, and at least she rehearses. And just like that, the fate of the most vulnerable of all, the stateless Kurds, becomes part of his job description. Now listen carefully. The most frightening part wasn't only that he had no experience in this region and that Kurds are the people of a land carved up by Sykes-Picot, yet treated as disposable even after being great US allies. The real fear was deeper. This ambassador/special envoy has a history of being influenced by power and money. And this isn't something whispered on social media. This comes from the US Department of Justice. The US Department of Justice, DOJ, accused Barrack of secretly acting and conspiring to act as an agent, I repeat, as an agent of the United Arab Emirates. DOJ said it was about influencing US policy and public opinion. And DOJ also said that when investigators came later, Barrack lied and obstructed. Here he says, Thomas Joseph Barrack. Now, how did prosecutors say it worked? First, the words. Rolling Stone reported UAE officials suggested edits to a Trump America First speech draft in 2016, and Barrack worked to get those changes into the text. Then the Washington Post reported trial evidence that Barrack shared a draft campaign speech with a UAE contact and pushed edits. So this wasn't just influence, it was rewriting the script of the President of the United States. Next, the inside information. The Associated Press reported prosecutors said Barrack passed UAE officials sensitive details from inside the administration, including what senior US officials thought about the Qatar boycott and blockade. And then the money. Reuters reported prosecutors argued UAE sovereign wealth funds invested hundreds of millions in Barrack's firm in 2017 and 2018. Then comes the cover-up claim. DOJ alleged that after the government started looking, Barrack tried to block the process. And it is not secret that he was also involved in the Epstein files. This is an email exchange where Jeffrey Epstein writes to Tom Barrack, "Send photos of you and child, make me smile." There is another email showing Michael Wolff asking Epstein to introduce him to Tom Barrack, showing how close Tom Barrack was to Epstein. So this is the question that burns in the throat of every Kurd who still believes in justice. When you give the rights of millions of Kurds to a man with a past shaped by money, as DOJ described it, a man hungry for power, and both of the countries he works for satisfy him with it, what happens? Kurds get slaughtered by the powers of the region under the watch of the ambassador/special envoy himself. I've received hundreds of documents of violence, massacre and abuse from the US-based CPT organization about what Syrian Arab militias have done against Kurdish people. This is one of the stories that CPT says they have verified every detail I am about to share. Let me take you to January 18th, Raqqa. During an offensive by militias of the new Syrian government, a Kurdish family of 12 fled from Raqqa to Hasaka in a Kia truck. They were stopped. The gunman asked, "Are you Kurds or Arabs?" The family answered, "We are Kurds, but we are not affiliated with any party or military force." And the commander replied, "Fine, now I will end all of you." He ordered the execution of the elders. As the family tried to get out in terror, the gunman opened fire. They shot the father, Muhammad Ismail, in the head, then the mother, Sarah Shahin, in the head. Then they fired into the rest of the family, killing 4 more people, including 2 children. And they mutilated the bodies. They flayed the face of Wait, let me show it to you. They flayed the face of Layla, a 17-year-old girl, and disemboweled her. They gouged out the right eye of Muhammad, a 26-year-old man. 6 family members survived, but badly wounded. 3 of them were children. For example, one of them is Shadi, a 6-year-old girl, shot in the leg and the face. This is Levant, 2 years old. He has now head injuries and 2 fingers are missing from his right hand. This is Ibrahim, 4 years old, bullet wounds to the leg and genitals, and even in the hospital, the hatred followed them. One doctor insulted the wounded and said, "You should have been killed too. You shouldn't have been brought here." These are the photos of the killed and wounded family members that I don't want to show it to you. And the children were also taken away from the family, the surviving ones. Look, this is Shirin, and this is the surviving women that told us the story. There is a voice note from her that she sent to her brother, terrified she would die and that no one would ever tell the story. I want you to listen to it.
جو بابا جو يوسف جو كازي ما بردا وينتني كازي ما بيردا ببيتني قرشين عن المكان نظام جنجق ديرا جو باش تيما قرشين هاك المخزدان ديما سماعين سماعين زاري نسام كذا فرس سماعين 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 معين قرشين باش تيما ذلكات دبيش كوا دمرم زوري مداس بوند نوارم ببن زوري ما برن برنا مستشفى نزل كاس نام ونام كاس نام.
Here is an Arab man who says the situation was not limited to one Kurdish family. He says Arab militias stopped them too and asked, "Are you Arab or Kurd?" He says they escaped because they were Arab. But once the militias found out a family was Kurdish, they slaughtered them.
أنا عربي وأنا ابن الرجال بس تشرب إنهم يذلونا. أنت كردي ولا عربي؟ كردي تيذبحني، عربي تتعدي. هذا صار معي أنا على الطريق. عرفتوا ما صار معنا على الطريق؟ هذا صار معنا على الطريق. حطم البارودة براس أختي، يقول لها أنت عسكرية. أنت عسكرية تابعة لكلاب قنديل. إيش يقولون؟ هذول العرب الجايين، هذول بدهم يمثلون الحكومة.
And while Tom Barrack posts these long statements about how he secured peace, how he forced Kurds to give up their autonomy, this is what Kurdish families returned to after his so-called successful ceasefire. Homes stripped bare, looted, robbed, even the windows and doors taken. This is the horror inside the word integration. This is the Syrian militia that Tom Barrack forces Kurds to integrate themselves with and expects them to be safe under their reign. You don't need to be a scientist to know what many of these militias are. The ones who cut off the ears of a 26-year-old Kurdish man, then killed him, then drove a tank over his body.
خنزير أبتر.
The ones who burn bodies on video and send it to their families. The ones who put Kurdish women on sale.
جيناكم بالعرض الأقوى من عند عمكم طائفي هذالات للبيع.
Are of ISIS origins. Is this the part where we applaud Tom Barrack, or do we save that for later? Did the special envoy to Syria seriously think these radical minds change overnight? Not even their backed TV channels can hide the truth. Al Jazeera shows detainee camps and says, look, these are innocent people who were detained in ISIS camps by Kurdish forces for no reason at all.
بس بدنا ناس تفوت لعنا لحتى يثبتوا انه وين الداعش موجود. انت عم تقول داعش وينه؟ عم قول لك 100% ما في داعش.
But then there's another video showing that same man doing an oath of allegiance to ISIS.
والله لن تدخلوا هذه المدينة إلا على أشلائنا. نحن رعية أمير المؤمنين نؤازر أخواننا في الدولة الإسلامية.
And now the part that makes it even harder to swallow. Tom Barrack has a degree in sociology from the University of Southern California in 1969. In that very degree, they taught him and every graduate to treat individuals as autonomous agents, to respect their language, identity, religion and ethnicity. Forget individual autonomy. Didn't he erase the autonomy of 6 million Kurds in Syria? He also has a law degree from the University of San Diego School of Law in 1972. And in the curriculum he studied, words he memorized for exams, it is written clearly. A lawyer shall not represent a client if the representation involves a concurrent conflict of interest. The clients he represents, Turkey and Syria, are they not responsible for the many documented atrocities against the Kurds in their countries? Is not their stance clear? They are against every form of Kurdish self-governance, representing them and forcing Kurds to dissolve and integrate everything they have with al-Sharra's regime. Is that not a conflict of interest? I'll leave the answer to you.